Hey everyone, this is Miss Smith, and this video is an important one because we're going to talk about a way that you can make sure that you avoid plagiarism in your essay writing. And one way to do this is to make sure that your works cited page and your in-text citations correspond with one another. Okay? You want to make sure your works cited page and your in-text citations correspond with one another. What do I mean when I say correspond? Well, number one, it needs to be properly formatted. And so you need to make sure that whatever you include as an in-text citation is exactly the way it begins on your works cited page. And number two, you want to make sure that it's complete. And so you want to make sure whatever you list as an in-text citation, that you have a full citation for it on your works cited page. And whatever is on your works cited page, you have a corresponding in-text citation for that source in your essay. And so let's kind of start with the in-text citation to take a closer look at this. And so the in-text citation is typically found at the end of the sentence, and you will find them typically in parentheses. Okay? That's what we call the in-text citation. The in-text citation offers real-time credit to the source of the information that you're using in your essay. Okay? It offers real-time credit to the source of the information that you're using in your essay. And so if we look at this first sentence here, we note that we have some quotation marks here. And so the writer of this essay is probably telling us that this information in quotation marks comes from Egan. Probably word for word, right? If it's in those quotation marks, it comes word for word as it's written there. And they got that exactly from a source that is named Egan. Okay? And so when we look on the works cited page, in order for this to be done correctly, we need to see a works cited entry that begins with Egan. Whatever you put in these parentheses, right, you want to make sure that it begins your full citation. Now there is an exception to that rule, but we'll look at that in just a second. And so let's go ahead and scroll down to the works cited page. And when we get there, we should be able to find a full citation for Egan. And here it is. We have a full citation, and the full citation begins with what was in that parentheses, which is Egan. That is properly formatted. We have the in-text citation, and then we have the full citation on the works cited page. Okay? So let's say in the essay, instead of it saying Egan in those parentheses, it said talk is now turning to the Dewey Cabinet. Okay? Let's say that was in parentheses. That would be incorrect, right? Because it doesn't begin the full citation. Your in-text citation should be the first word or the first set of words of your full citation. Nothing further in, just the first word or the first set of words of the full citation. Your in-text citation should be the first word or the first set of words of the full citation. Okay? And so let's look at another one. We'll go right back to the top again, and we will look at this source here, Donaldson. Okay, so we notice with Egan, it just said Egan. It didn't have any numbers with it, but Donaldson does have numbers with it. It has 210. And so that usually indicates that the information from this source comes from a book because there's a page number attached with it. And so this is a page number, and it's telling us that the information that was used in this sentence, right, comes from Donaldson, and it comes from a specific page, page 210. Okay? Now I'll also point out that whereas in this first sentence we had the quotation marks, we notice that we don't have that in the sentence where Donaldson is referenced. Okay? This here where we have the quotation marks is direct quoting, right? So again, the writer has taken this wording exactly from Egan. But here, this information, it's probably paraphrased, meaning the writer has found information from Donaldson, but the writer has put it in his or her own words. Okay, not just changing a word or two in the sentence, but they've taken the sentence, they've put it in their own words without changing the meaning of the sentence. And so now it's their wording and not the author's wording. But you still have to make sure you give credit to your source, where the information came from, because that information did not originate with you. It originated with Donaldson. Okay? And so those are two examples of in-text citations. And so again, we should be able now to go to our works cited page, take a trip on down to that page, and we should be able to find Donaldson. There we have him. Okay, and so Donaldson's full citation is here, and now that is correct. Okay, and so I will point out a couple of things about the works cited page. So your works cited page should always be in alphabetical order. Okay, always, always, always be in alphabetical order. And so your reader should be able to go through and find information in alphabetical order. Whenever you see these dashes here, that just indicates that it is the same beginning information, or the same author information in this case, as the source above it. And so instead of repeating Hamby, comma, Alonzo L, right, it's just saying that I've gotten this information here from this source, same source that's mentioned above. Okay. All right, and so we have the works cited page here. Okay, and again, works cited should be works that you are actually using, that you're citing in your essay. I will point out another thing. You notice that all of the beginning citations, right, the start of the citation begins on the left margin. And then you'll notice that as the lines wrap around, that they are indented. Okay, there is a way to do this. And so if we take a look, for example, and this is already done, we'll go back to this. Let's take a look, for example, at this source. Okay, just an example, I just made it up. And I'm going to show you how to properly format that works cited. And so let's say this is your citation. What you want to do is you want to highlight the entire thing. Here in the paragraph section, you want to go to 2.0, which indicates that it is double-spaced, okay? And then you also want to go under paragraph, indentation section, and you want to select the hanging indentation. And when you do, that will automatically indent every subsequent line that wraps over of the full citation. Okay, when it's time to begin a new citation, just hit enter and it'll automatically start it at the left margin. Okay, and as it wraps around, it will automatically indent any subsequent lines. So that is the proper way to format your works cited page, and we can see examples of that here. Okay, and so let's kind of go back up to the top, because I want to point out a distinction with the in-text citations. And so we see we have Egan. Egan checks out, right, because we find on our works cited page a source that begins with Egan. And then we have Donaldson. Donaldson checks out because we found the source that begins the full citation with Donaldson. But here we have 270, right? And we're not going to find anything that just begins 270. And so let me point out that this is one type of an in-text citation. This is what we call a referential in-text citation. And that means that the writer chose to reference the source in the sentence, in the wording of the sentence. And so this sentence reads, as historian Robert H. Farrell observes, right? This is giving credit to historian Robert H. Farrell. Even Truman's wife, Bess, thought he would be beaten. And so what we have here is just the page number. That's all that's needed. We don't have to say Farrell 270 because Farrell was already referenced in the wording of the sentence. Okay, but we do need to include the in-text citation if there is a page number. Now let's say it's an online source and there's no page number. Then you would not need this at all. Your sentence would stop after the word beaten. Okay, so we wouldn't need this at all if it were not, if there were no page numbers. Only when there are page numbers, then we would have to indicate the page number where this information came from. Okay, and so let's go back down almost to our works cited page. Let's just look for another one just to see if it's corresponding. Okay, here we go. Carabel 257. And so on our Works Cited page, we should be able to find a full citation that begins with Carabel. Okay, here's another one. On our Works Cited page, we should be able to find a full citation that begins with McDonald. Okay, on our Works Cited page, we should be able to find a full citation that begins with 1948 Truman Dewey election. Okay, and then McCullough. Okay, so let's look for those four. Okay, and so let's see. Carabel, we have Carabel right here. We have McCullough right here. Okay, we have McDonald, and again, this is in alphabetical order. Okay, and we have 1948 Truman Dewey election, right? So we have it corresponding. Okay, and so you want to make sure, again, just to recap, that whatever you have as your in-text citation begins the full citation. The only exception to that is if you have written the source into your sentence, where you're giving credit in the wording of the sentence to the source, then you can just put the page number at the end if there is a page number. If there's not, then you wouldn't have to put any kind of parenthetical citation at the end. Parenthetical meaning in parentheses at the end of the sentence. Okay, and you want to make sure that your Works Cited page also corresponds. So every single thing that's on this Works Cited page needs to have an in-text citation in that essay. Okay, every single thing here, because if not, that could be a plagiarism issue, just the same as it would be if you had an in-text citation for something and you did not have the full citation on your Works Cited page. And so if you have questions, please let me know. I am happy to help however I can. And hopefully this video has been helpful.